the chamber of contempt. The stars beyond the viewport hung like frozen diamonds against the velvet darkness, indifferent to the gathering storm within the council chamber. The orbital station of Zenthar Prime rotated slowly, a monument to galactic cooperation, or so its architects had claimed 3 centuries ago. Today it would become something else entirely, a testament to arrogance. Ambassador Sarah Kimura sat alone in the Earth Embassy's private shuttle, her fingers drumming a silent rhythm against the armrest. Through the transparent aluminum viewport, she watched the massive station's docking rings cycle through their mechanical ballet, ships from 100 worlds queued in organized chaos, the sleek, blade-like vessels of the Reckan Empire, the organic, pulsating craft of the Silith Confederacy, the crystalline spheres of the Morpheus Collective. Earth's shuttle looked almost embarrassingly simple by comparison, angular, functional, built for purpose rather than intimidation. Good, Sarah thought. Let them underestimate us a little longer. Her wrist device chimed softly. The council session would begin in 10 minutes. She closed her eyes, breathing slowly, centering herself for what was to come. 50 years of careful diplomacy, of swallowed pride and strategic silence had led to this moment. The message from Earth High Command had been clear. Observe, record, react to nothing. The shuttle docked with barely a whisper of atmosphere equalization. The Chamber of Stars, as the council hall was grandiosely named, stretched across 3 levels of vaulted space. Holographic star maps rotated lazily above the assembly floor, displaying the current territorial divisions of known space. 247 species held seats in the grand amphitheater, each position marked by floating translation spheres that converted thousands of languages into real-time understanding. Sarah entered through the lower access corridor, deliberately late. The chamber was already buzzing with anticipation. She could feel it in the way conversations hushed and alien eyes tracked her movement. The Earth delegation's seat sat in the 3rd tier, modest in placement, unremarkable in appearance. She had designed it that way. As she climbed the curved stairs, she passed clusters of delegates engaged in animated discussion. The Vrekkans, 7 feet tall, reptilian, with scales that shimmered gold under the chamber's lights, gestured with their 4-fingered hands, mandibles clicking in what Sarah had learned to recognize as laughter. Nearby, the Silith representatives, beings of living liquid metal contained in environmental suits, pulsed with colors that betrayed excitement, deep crimsons and electric blues. None of them looked at her with respect. Their gazes held something else, anticipation mixed with contempt, like predators circling wounded prey. Sarah settled into her seat without ceremony. She activated her recording suite, the micro cameras and audio sensors hidden in her diplomatic insignia. Everything that happened today would be transmitted directly to Earth, stored in 17 separate secure locations, and analyzed by the brightest minds humanity had cultivated in secret. The great bell of convening rang, a deep, resonant sound that seemed to vibrate through the station's very structure. Conversations died instantly. Council leader Thexel rose from the central podium. He was Reckan, one of the oldest species in the council, and he carried himself with the absolute confidence of someone who had never known true defeat. His ceremonial robes draped across his massive frame like liquid gold, and his throat crest flared crimson, a biological signal of dominance Sarah had studied extensively. Honored delegates, Thexel began, his voice translated into Earth Common with perfect clarity. We gather today to address a matter long postponed, a matter of galactic stability and proper order. Sarah's expression remained neutral, but her heart rate increased by exactly 3 beats per minute. Here it comes. For decades, we have extended the hand of partnership to the species of Sol 3. We welcomed them despite their late arrival to galactic civilization. We offered them trade, knowledge, and a seat among the stars. Thexel paused, letting his words sink in. And how have they repaid our generosity? A holographic display materialized above the chamber, images cycling through supposed human failures, a trade dispute with the Corlin merchants, a territorial disagreement in the Epsilon sector, a research station that had been too close to Silith space. Sarah recognized each incident. She also recognized how carefully they'd been edited, context stripped away, human perspectives ignored. They demand resources beyond their contribution. A Silith delegate interjected, its voice like wind chimes made of knives. They occupy territories that could be better utilized by species with proven track records of efficiency. They are emotional, added a representative from the Morpheus Collective, its crystalline form refracting light into rainbow patterns, unstable, prone to conflicts even among themselves. How can we trust them with matters of galactic importance? The murmurs of agreement rippled through the chamber like a wave. Sarah sat perfectly still. She allowed herself one small gesture. She folded her hands in her lap, a movement so subtle most wouldn't even notice. But the 3 junior Earth diplomats watching from the observation deck would recognize it immediately. Condition read. Protocol Lazarus, stand by. Thexel raised one clawed hand, and silence fell again. Therefore, I present for immediate vote. Resolution 7743, the Human Limitation Act. The full text materialized in holographic script, rotating slowly for all to see. Sarah read it with the detached interest of someone reviewing a restaurant menu. Strip Earth of voting privileges. Reduce territorial holdings by 60%. Impose trade restrictions. Require council oversight of all human military and scientific developments. It was, in every meaningful way, a reduction to vassal status. This is not punishment, Thexel continued, his mandibles spreading in what passed for a Vrekan smile. This is correction. Guidance. We offer humanity the opportunity to mature under proper supervision. To learn from those who have walked the stars for millennia while your kind still huddled in caves. Laughter echoed through the chamber. Not from all species, Sarah noted. The Torvan delegation, small beings with 6 eyes and profound mathematical minds, remained silent. So did the Cathara, warrior poets who valued honor above convenience. But they were minorities, easily outvoted. The vote is called, Thexel announced. All in favor of Resolution 7743? Lights began appearing across the chamber, blue affirmatives blooming like toxic flowers. Sarah watched the tally climb on the central display. 50, 100, 50, 200. Not a single red negative appeared. 47-0. The only abstention was Earth itself. Celebration erupted. Delegates stood applauding, their various forms of communication creating a cacophony of triumph. The Vrekans roared. The Silith pulsed with brilliant golds. Even the usually reserved Morpheus Collective chimed with crystalline satisfaction. Sarah remained seated. She waited until the noise began to subside, until Thexel turned his massive head toward her, his eyes gleaming with undisguised satisfaction. Only then did she stand. The chamber fell silent again, but this time the silence was different, curious, expectant, hungry for her reaction. Would she plead, threaten, break down in very human emotional display? Sarah pressed 3 fingers to her heart, the formal human gesture of acknowledgement, and bowed her head. Not a deep bow of submission, but a measured inclination of respect. Council Leader Thexel, she said, her voice carrying clearly through her translation sphere. Honored delegates, Earth acknowledges the will of this assembly. Confusion flickered across several faces. This wasn't the response they'd expected. We have heard your judgment. We have recorded your decision. We will carry your message back to our homeworld. Sarah's dark eyes swept across the chamber, meeting gazes, remembering faces, and we will respond accordingly. She paused at the top of the stairs leading from her seat. The entire council watched her, 247 species waiting for more, an outburst, a plea, something human in its emotional weakness. Instead, Sarah smiled. It was a small expression, barely visible, and somehow that made it more unsettling. History, she said softly, will remember this day. Then she turned and walked from the Chamber of Stars, her footsteps echoing in the sudden, absolute silence. The Earth Embassy shuttle departed Zenthar Prime Station 37 minutes later. No ceremonial farewells, no diplomatic protocols. Just a clean separation and a vector set for the Sol system, 9 days away at conventional drive speeds. Inside, Sarah sat in the command chair, her diplomatic mask finally falling away. Her hands shook, not from fear but from the sheer weight of what she'd just witnessed. The calculated cruelty, the casual dismissal of an entire species' dignity. She activated the quantum-encrypted comm array, entering her personal authorization codes. The message was pre-written, requiring only her biometric confirmation to send. 3 words appeared on her screen. Protocol Lazarus. Activate. Sarah pressed her thumb to the sensor. The message compressed into a quantum-entangled particle stream and vanished, traveling instantaneously across 9 light-years to Earth, to the Deep Space Command buried 3 miles beneath the Colorado Rockies. To the people who had spent 50 years preparing for this exact moment. On her secondary display, Sarah pulled up a file marked Eyes Only, Operation Ghost Protocol, schematics of ships the Council had never seen, weapon systems based on physics the galaxy's greatest minds hadn't yet discovered, strategic positions established in the dark spaces between stars, invisible and patient. Humanity had not been idle during its decades of mockery. They wanted silence, Sarah whispered to the empty shuttle, watching Earth's sun grow slowly larger in her viewport. Now they'll learn what silence was hiding. Behind her, invisible to any sensors the Council might employ, 3 phase-shifted Terran warships matched her vector, perfectly, ghosts escorting their ambassador home. The galaxy would soon discover that Earth's silence had never been acceptance, it had been preparation. The Reckoning. Silence. 23 days after Resolution 7743 passed, the Reckon patrol fleet Crimson Talon vanished. It happened in the outer terminus, a region of space thick with asteroid debris and unstable gravity wells, a natural border between Reckon territory and what had once been designated as human exploration space. The fleet consisted of 12 heavy cruisers, 40 escort frigates, and a command carrier that housed 3,000 Reckon warriors. They had been dispatched to claim the mining stations humanity was now legally required to abandon. At 08:47 Galactic Standard Time, the Crimson Talon transmitted its routine position report. At 08:48, they were simply gone. No distress signals, no weapons discharge detected, no debris field. The quantum wake of 53 military vessels disappeared as completely as breath on cold glass. Fleet Commander Crixvall, monitoring from Vrecken High Command, stared at his tactical display in disbelief. He ran the scan protocols 3 times, certain there must be equipment malfunction, but the results remained constant. Empty space where an entire fleet should be. Navigational error, he declared to his subordinates, his throat crest flaring orange with uncertainty. They jumped incorrectly. Issue a system-wide search pattern. But even as he gave the order, Crixvall felt something he hadn't experienced in his 2 centuries of military service, a cold tendril of doubt worming through his confidence. The humans had said nothing, made no threats, filed no protests. Perhaps that should have been the first warning. The disappearances accelerated. 6 days later, a Silith research installation, monitoring dark matter fluctuations in the Kepler expanse, went dark. 400 scientists and support staff vanished. Their floating laboratory remained intact, power systems functioning normally, experiments still running in automated sequences. But every living being aboard had simply ceased to exist in any detectable form. Silith Counselor Vexthar reviewed the security footage personally. The metallic fluid that comprised her form rippled with agitation as she watched the final moments. Scientists working normally, then a barely perceptible shimmer in the air, then nothing. No bodies. No signs of struggle. Just empty corridors and abandoned workstations. Pirates, she announced to the Silith High Council, her voice frequencies modulating with false certainty. Slavers, perhaps. We will increase security patrols. But the patrols themselves became targets. A Morpheus, collective trade convoy, 17 ships carrying rare crystals worth more than most planetary economies, disappeared between jump points. A Corlin diplomatic vessel, carrying the Grand Ambassador to treaty negotiations, vanished mid-transit. A joint military exercise between 3 council species dissolved into chaos when half the participating fleet simply blinked out of existence. Every incident shared 3 characteristics. First, they occurred near territories the Council had stripped from humanity. Second, every victim had voted in favor of Resolution 7743. Third, there was never any evidence. No weapons fire, no battle damage, just absence where presence should be. Whispers began spreading through the Council's networks. cautious at first, then growing louder. The humans. It had to be the humans, but how? Earth's known military capabilities were thoroughly documented. Thoroughly inferior. Their ships were slower, their weapons less sophisticated, their tactical doctrine decades behind Council standards, weren't they? 41 days after the vote, Council leader Thexel convened an emergency session. The Chamber of Stars felt different now. Where before there had been arrogant confidence, now tension crackled like static electricity. Delegates clustered in nervous groups, their conversations hushed, their body language defensive. Security had been tripled. Armed escorts accompanied every representative, and in the third tier, Earth's seat sat conspicuously empty. Thexel's throat crest had faded from its usual vibrant crimson to a sickly orange, a Vrekan biological tell that Sarah Kimura would have recognized immediately as fear poorly concealed. "We face an unprecedented crisis," Thexel began, his translated voice lacking its former authority. 73 incidents across 19 sectors, 12,000 individuals unaccounted for, 17 military vessels, 21 civilian craft, and 8 permanent installations affected. The holographic display showed a star map with red markers indicating each disappearance. They formed a pattern, a rough circle encompassing everything the Council had taken from humanity. "We have detected no conventional weapon signatures," continued a Silith military analyst, her containment suit pulsing nervous purples. "No missile trails, no energy weapon discharge, no explosive residue. Whatever is taking our people and ships leaves no trace." "Ghost ships," whispered a Torvan delegate, his 6 eyes blinking in asynchronous fear. "The humans call them ghost ships." "Superstition," Thexel snapped, but his mandibles quivered. "We are dealing with a technological phenomenon, not mythology. Our science divisions are analyzing." The chamber doors opened, every head turned. Conversations died mid-syllable. Ambassador Sarah Kimura walked through the entrance with the same measured calm she'd displayed 41 days earlier. She wore the same diplomatic attire, simple, functional, unremarkable. Her expression remained neutral, almost serene. But something had changed. The delegates could feel it, even if they couldn't articulate what it was. Perhaps it was the way she held herself, not with the careful deference of before, but with the quiet confidence of someone holding all the cards. 3 junior Earth diplomats followed her, carrying a secured data case. Sarah climbed to Earth's seat without hurrying, settled into the chair, and folded her hands precisely as she had before. Then she waited, letting the silence stretch, letting the Council's fear ferment a few seconds longer. Finally, Thexel found his voice. "Ambassador Kimura, how fortunate that you've chosen to join us." He tried to inject authority into his tone and failed. "Perhaps you can shed light on these mysterious disappearances. They occur exclusively in regions recently designated for Council redistribution. Regions formerly claimed by Earth." Sarah tilted her head slightly, as if considering an interesting philosophical question. "Council leader, are you suggesting Earth is somehow responsible for the security failures of dozens of species with military capabilities far superior to our own?" "We are suggesting," interrupted Vexthar, the Silith representative's containment suit now flickering angry reds, "that the timing is suspicious, that humanity's silence has been deafening, that perhaps—" "Silence," Sarah repeated softly, almost thoughtfully. She stood, and despite her smaller stature compared to most Council species, every eye fixed upon her. "Yes, we have been silent. Would the Council like to know why?" She gestured to her junior diplomats. They opened the data case and initialized a holographic projection system. Human technology, Sarah noted with private satisfaction, far more advanced than what the Council used in this very chamber. "Because," Sarah continued, "we were listening. The holographic display activated, filling the center of the chamber with 3-dimensional imagery. What appeared first made several delegates gasp audibly. A Vrekan cruiser hung in perfect detail, the Crimson Dawn, flagship of the vanished Crimson Talon fleet. But this wasn't archival footage. This was real-time transmission. The ship's hull showed no damage, its lights functional, its systems operating normally, except the ship floated in a vast hangar that shouldn't exist. A facility carved from an asteroid, its walls lined with technology that made the Council's most advanced installations look primitive by comparison. This, Sarah said calmly, is Detention Facility 7, one of 12 such installations Earth constructed over the past 50 years. While you debated our unworthiness, we were building. The image shifted, showing row upon row of captured vessels, Vrecken, Silith, Morpheus, Corlin. Dozens of ships, pristine and intact, held in perfect stasis fields. Every vessel you believe lost is here. Every crew member is alive, unharmed, held in suspended animation. We could have destroyed them. Sarah's voice remained emotionless, factual. We chose not to. Pandemonium erupted. Delegates shouted in 100 languages, translation spheres struggling to keep pace. Thexel roared for order, his throat crest blazing full crimson in rage and fear. Sarah waited for the chaos to subside, then gestured again. The holographic display changed. Now it showed something that made even the most arrogant delegates fall silent. A Terran warship. It was beautiful in the way a predator is beautiful. Sleek lines, dark hull absorbing light rather than reflecting it, covered in geometric patterns that seemed to hurt the eyes if stared at too long. The ship simply appeared in the footage, materializing from nothing as its phase shift camouflage disengaged. Phase displacement technology, Sarah explained. Her tone that of a teacher addressing slow students. We solved the quantum coherence problem 17 years ago. Our ships exist slightly out of phase with normal space-time. To your sensors, we're invisible. To your weapons, we're intangible. More images followed in rapid succession. Quantum torpedo systems that could target ships mid-jump. AI coordination networks allowing single human operators to command entire fleets with thought-speed precision. Gravity well generators that could trap vessels without firing a shot. Medical technology that had extended human lifespans to 200 years while you mocked our primitive biology. Each revelation hit the Council like a physical blow. For 50 years, Sarah continued, her voice now carrying an edge sharp enough to cut steel. You dismissed us. You laughed at our emotional instability. You claimed our technology was decades behind yours. You were half right, we were decades ahead and you never noticed. She turned to face Thexel directly. You wanted to reduce us to vassals, to strip away our dignity, to supervise us like children. Sarah's smile was cold enough to freeze stars. Tell me, Council Leader, how does it feel to realize those children have been capable of ending you this entire time? The silence that followed was absolute. 247 species, many of whom had ruled the stars for millennia, sat frozen in the realization that they had catastrophically misjudged the newest members of their galactic community. Thexel's throat crest had gone completely. Hilt, a color Sarah's research indicated meant existential. Terror, what? His voice cracked. He tried again. What does Earth want? Sarah's expression softened slightly, though her eyes remained hard as diamond. Earth wants what we have always wanted, respect, partnership, equality. She pulled up a new document in the holographic display. Counterproposal beautifully formatted and clearly prepared long in advance. Resolution 7744, the Treaty of Mutual Recognition. Earth will release all captured personnel unharmed. We will return all seized vessels intact. We will share, selectively, some of our technological advances. Sarah paused. In exchange, Resolution 7743 is rescinded in its entirety. Earth's original territories are restored. Voting rights are confirmed. And most importantly, humanity is recognized as an equal partner in galactic affairs, not a subordinate species requiring guidance. She looked around the chamber, meeting the eyes of every delegate who would face her gaze. We are also proposing mutual defense pacts, fair trade agreements, and cultural exchange programs. We are offering our hand in genuine partnership. Her voice hardened. But understand this, we are offering, not begging. Refuse and you'll discover what else we built during 50 years of your contempt. Bexithar was the first to speak. Her containment suit pulsing colors Sarah had never seen before. Complex patterns that suggested emotions the Silith had no simple words for. You could have struck openly. Could have destroyed us. Why this restraint? Sarah's expression shifted. Something almost sad crossed her features. Because despite everything, we still believe in the ideal of a galactic community. We believe different species can coexist, can strengthen each other. She gestured to the display showing the intact captured ships. We proved our capability through shadows, not slaughter. We want you to choose cooperation not from weakness but from understanding. And if we refuse? Thexel asked, though his tone suggested he already knew the answer was unthinkable. Then you'll learn, Sarah said quietly, what Operation Nightfall looks like. And I promise you, Council Leader, you don't want that lesson. The vote was called within the hour. Resolution 7744 passed 247 to 0. This time, Earth voted yes. 6 months later, Sarah Kimura stood in the same chamber of stars, but everything had changed. Where Earth's seat had once resided in the unremarkable third tier, it now occupied a position of honor in the first circle, not above other species, but among the Council's founding members. The Reckon Empire had requested joint military exercises with Terran forces. The Silith Confederacy had opened technology exchange programs. Even Thexel, his pride wounded but his wisdom finally engaged, had formally apologized for his species' arrogance. The galaxy was learning a lesson humanity had tried to teach peacefully for decades. Power without wisdom is tyranny. But wisdom without power is merely advice. Earth had both now, and the stars would never look at humanity the same way again. Sarah's wrist device chimed, a message from Earth Command. They were decommissioning the Ghost Fleet, transitioning those resources to peaceful research and exploration. Operation Lazarus was officially over. She smiled, a genuine expression this time, and looked out at the assembled delegates. Honored Council, she began, her voice warm with possibility. I'd like to propose our first joint initiative, a deep space exploration program, combining the best of all our species' capabilities. As Sarah spoke, painting visions of shared futures and mutual discovery, no one noticed the small detail that only she and Earth Command knew. The Ghost Fleet hadn't been decommissioned. It had been upgraded, because humanity had learned another lesson during their decades of silence. Hope for the best, but always, always prepare for the worst. The galaxy had earned a second chance. Whether they deserved a third remained to be seen.